this, but Coach Almeida. Can you tell us about your experience with J-Boo?
Just got that Brooke tweet.
Yeah, I saw that. I hit retweet quick before she deletes it. All right, let's roll. We'll go quick again. Right. I'll share it all here in a minute, but 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is Sunday morning. This might be our first AM recording that we're going live. I know we've gone early, never this early. Richie's definitely hungover. Myself, TJ Pittenger, coming off a big FSU hoops win, and we are sandwiched right in the middle of it because we've got another FSU hoops game coming up tomorrow. Women play today. Baseball going for the sweep against Miami. We got a bunch of stuff going on. But Richie, how you doing this morning besides hungover?
Yeah, man, I'm fighting through it. This is my Jordan flu game, so I'm here. Had a blast, man, watching all the madness the past few days. And at first I wasn't sure how I would like March Madness starting on a Friday, but it ended up being great because I left work early Friday, just watched basketball nonstop all weekend. And, that's why we're going live early right now. We do not want to compete with March Madness. We think you guys like us. That's why you tune in, but we're not dumb enough to think you're going to watch us over March Madness. So happy to be here.
Yeah, and our women, Coach Wyckoff just tweeted us, but our women play tonight at 7:30 on ESPN2. I know that a lot of you are going to be watching the men's tournament, but keep an eye on that women's matchup. They're the number 9 seed going up against number 8. So check them out today as they play against Oregon State. Again, 7:30 on ESPN2. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both their locations at 1818 West Tennessee and 2550 North Monroe. Appreciate their partnership and their support. And we've got a fun show lined up today. We are going to jump right into it with an interview, and I'm going to add him to the chat. Mr. Paul Aloisi. I got that right, I believe. Paul is a national champion on the 2013 team at FSU, a criminal defense attorney, and NFL agent. Paul, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing better now that I'm on here with you guys, and honored that you guys invited me on after I've been listening to so many other great, former Florida State players and Florida State coaches on this podcast.
You're already on the show, man. You don't got to gas us up like that, but we appreciate it.
I'm trying to get invited back. I'm trying to get invited back.
You can come back with us anytime, man. We're always honored to have people that want to hang out and chill with us. It's been a fun ride. You've been a supporter since the beginning. I remember you were tagging us from the very start, tagging us and stuff, and sharing our show and stuff. So we definitely appreciate it, and we're happy to have you here. So we talked about that 2013 team. Before we jump into that, I want to ask you, you're still in Tallahassee, correct?
Yes, sir.
Double Fries No Slaw is the name of the show. We wanted to go something everybody's like Unconquered or Spear or Tribe or whatever. So we went kind of off the wall, but tell me, you put down some Guthries in your day, right? Like you put it away when you were there, right?
Oh yeah. The best, that was one of the best parts of going out, right? On a Friday or Saturday, well, really, especially in football season, you got to go out Saturday night after the game. But if you hit Coliseum on a Saturday night when that was popping in undergrad, Guthrie's is conveniently right across the street. So, whether you were crawling across the street to get there, running across the street to get there, it was definitely part of the way home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And same now. Like if you're up there partying on a Friday night before the game, nothing else is open that late. You might sit in that drive-through for 45 minutes, but you're going to be there going and getting that on the way home.
And I don't know what's in that smell, but the smell is just enticing. I don't know if there's anything in town that can really just draw somebody in like that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So we like to take it pretty light around here. So we usually open people up with that. I tell people this like beforehand, but I asked, did you see the Charlie Ward episode? Did you remember? I tell people now, but like, I asked him if he'd ever had Guthrie's, and here goes like the greatest quarter. Well, I'm a Jameis fan, but like the greatest quarterback in school history is like, I'm a vegan, TJ. Sorry. And I'm like, dude, come on with that. Like, go get some fries, bro. Like,
anyone's going to do that to you and show you up, it's Charlie Ward. I mean, that's just how great of a human being he is.
Man, like I don't eat meat like that. Like you're killing yourself with that fried. I'm like, dude, just get out of here. Tell us about beating Nebraska and go on. So, talk to us about your time at Florida State. So you walked on, which is a whole different animal than, some of the guys that we've talked with, and it almost demands like more respect, right? Like than these, I mean, in some respects, right? Like you had to, you weren't just like 5-star recruit that came in and was able to just like take everything and be given everything. Not that those guys don't work. Don't get me wrong, but you had to bust your butt just to be there. You kind of remind me of like, I wouldn't have been able to do it, but like if I wanted to go out and do it, like that's like the path, right? Like for just kind of a normal guy to be able to like work his tail off and do that. So what was it like, and what was your mindset being that walk on, right? Like around these guys that like were destined for the NFL and destined for absolute like sports greatness and stuff like that.
It was honestly surreal. Even though I always wanted to play at Florida State, I was a diehard Deion Sanders fan. I mean, one of my first rookie cards I ever had was his 1990 Upper Deck card. And on the back of it, it talked about him playing football at Florida State. So for me, I was like, all right, that's what I want to do. I grew up a huge avid sports fan. So, I mean, going through, this process and actually going through high school and seeing, okay, Matt Leinart, Heisman candidate, Reggie Bush, Heisman candidate. And then now I'm on a team with a legitimate Heisman candidate. For me, it was just surreal being able to go out there every day with guys who 10 years prior, I would have been a little kid watching on TV, and now I get to share the same field as them.
Was it intimidating at all being around some of those guys?
My first time out there as a freshman, it was I'm younger. So like when I actually started at Florida State, I was 17 for a couple of weeks and I turned 18. So and mind you, I'm not an 18-year-old 5-star built guy. I'm an 18-year-old preferred walk-on build guy. I'm much more of a slender build at 18 than some of these other guys are. So I remember coming out there my freshman year and seeing guys like Nigel Bradham and Vince Williams who were just stacked. I mean, like I just remember walking into the locker room and seeing Nigel Bradham and Vince Williams and being like, these are the guys I got to hit with at practice. Like, are you kidding me? But no, I mean, it was one of those things where over time, you had to try and just trust yourself and just be like, all right, listen, like I was, the coaches thought I was good enough to be out here for whatever capacity I'm out here for. So I just got to play my role and do my job. And because if you try to get caught up with, okay, it's Devontae Freeman coming at me, you're not gonna be able to make the play. You just got to try to. And let's be real, I probably wasn't gonna make the play anyway. He's gonna juke me. He's gonna run me through me, whatever he's gonna do. So I just had to go out there and do what I could.
You talked about having that Heisman Trophy candidate on the team. That year was obviously so special, right? Not just because of Jameis, a lot of because of Jameis, but not just because of Jameis, but because of guys like you just talked about, Devontae Freeman and Kelvin and Kenny and Rashad, and like the list just goes on and on and on. Like it's insane. The graphic that gets thrown up by FSU recruiting from time to time where like every starter on both sides of the ball, like in the NFL, like just one of the truly, truly great teams. A lot of those guys still in the NFL. But talking about Jameis and talking about how special that season was for him and as a quarterback. But what gets brought up a lot, and I just want to kind of get your perspective on it, was what kind of teammate was Jameis? I mean, I've never heard anybody say something negative as a teammate. Even the Bucs that just won the Super Bowl and stuff, like still love him, and he's liking all the Bucs posts and stuff like that. And so, what was Jameis like as a teammate to a walk on, right? Like to somebody that wasn't like Rashad or Devontae or whoever.
No, and I mean, he's the best teammate, the absolute best. And I'm happy you brought that in at the end, because that's what I was going to say was I think me giving, that praise to him shows you how great of a teammate he was, because he never had to pay me any mind if he didn't want to. I mean, he is the superstar Heisman quarterback, starting quarterback. I am a walk-on linebacker who might get in when we're up 50 points. I mean, he didn't have to show me any respect or deference, but he did. And that's how he treated everyone on the team. I mean, he didn't care if you were, the janitor cleaning up the locker room. He didn't care if you were the backup punter. He didn't care if you were backup linebacker. He wanted the organization as a whole to win. And he knew that the recipe, for success was doing it as a team. And he was able to really be there, motivate you, cheer you on. And I mean, he talked to my parents, he talked to my little brother, he took photos with them. He would check in, back then with how everything was going, because, he knew even though we might not be on the field on Saturday, we have our own struggles during the week of learning the opposing team's defensive schemes and, going to an extra couple weight sessions than the starters and travel players do. So, he knew that grind as well. He respected our grind, and, we still stay in touch to this day. And it's just one of those things that goes to show you how great of a teammate he is, that, he still texts me on different holidays or for my birthday, or that I'll check in with him, when he had his firstborn child or when he gets married, and just seeing how his family's doing. I mean, he is just like genuinely to the core a good person. So, I hated and I still hate when people in the media, try and label him as something, because like you said, anyone that has ever played a snap with him knows how great of a player and teammate, and most importantly, a man he is.
Yeah, no, he's been incredible to watch. He's been incredible to follow. And it really started all around sports, right? Like, so as a 23, 24-year-old, young man, I just loved him for what he was doing on Saturdays, right? And then you kind of see what he was doing off the field, whether it be at schools, whether it be with his Dream Forever Foundation here in Tampa, whether it's his charity work in New Orleans or just whatever. The fact that he gives so much and does so much with Hueytown back at home. And like you said, every teammate that we've ever had on, or anyone that we've ever talked with, has kind of had those same reviews. We asked Mike Martin Jr., if you watch that, we asked him about Jameis, and he just said he was just the real deal. Like, that's all he had to say. He was just the real deal, and Meets obviously coached Buster Posey, and he's, close with all of those guys. And he was just the best. I think that's exactly what he said. He was like, Jameis was just the best.
Oh yeah. And speaking of baseball, I mean, for me, like I said, I was talking about Deion Sanders. I grew up loving these two-sport athletes, two-sport star. And then now, after we win the national championship, I get to stroll on over to Dick Kaiser Stadium in the spring and watch our Heisman quarterback, come in relief and throw 2 scoreless innings. Like, we would all sit, all of us in the stands, like cheering him on. It was a blast. I mean, like, you had to see him playing ball before he became the superstar, and then also seeing him play baseball as a superstar football player. And just, he came running into Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and everything like that. I mean, it was amazing. And like, that's just the kind of guy he is. Like, no one else can pull that off but him.
Yeah. He's genuinely sorry, Richie. I told you could go, and then but yeah, like, as much fun as he is, like, as good of a guy, like, he's the biggest goofball too, and like, we all love that too. It just makes it more fun, because like, if I got there didn't have that stuff, people are like, dude, what are you doing? But like, Jameis doesn't, like, eating the W's and like doing the robot and stuff. Like, we just want to laugh. So, all right, Richie, I won't cut you off again.
Yeah, no, it's wild. He was like a rock star baseball player. I live here in Orlando. Florida State, UCF had a 2-game series here, and UCF set attendance records back-to-back nights because everyone wanted to see Jameis. And then I remember going down to Tampa to watch him at Florida State was playing the Yankees in spring training, and we got some really good seats. The boosters hooked us up. Shout out Eric Carr, my booster rep. But yeah, there's MLB scouts right behind us. And when Jameis came out, the crowd went nuts. Like, these people are crazy about this guy. But it's fun to hear the stories about how you being a walk-on, and he still texts you on your birthday and big holidays and stuff like that. That's just really cool to hear. So what I want to know is, how does the preferred walk-on process work? Because obviously you're good enough to probably get a scholarship at some places, but your love for Florida State made it an easy decision, I'm assuming. So where'd you go to high school, and how did that work out? Who was reaching out to you? Just talk me through that process.
No, definitely. So I did have, some smaller D1 AA offers, and, spoke Jacksonville University, one of those smaller D1 schools. Back then, I was talking with FAU a little bit, and back then in 2010, FAU was a completely different program than it is now. I don't know if FAU would still be interested in me if I was playing nowadays. But yeah, so I was talking with schools, who were smaller D1 programs, and even talking to a few Ivy League schools, just because my grade point average was probably not high enough for that school, but higher than, your average football recruit. So I was kind of trying to, mix them both for that. But actually during my senior year of high school, and I played at Martin County High School in Stuart, Florida. And actually notably, it's kind of just this past weekend, Justin Simmons, the Denver Broncos starting safety, signed that $60 million deal. My senior year, I was starting on defensive line and linebacker. He was our starting safety. So we had some players, and you guys will know guys like Jeff Luck and Giorgio Newberry, LaMarcus Brutus. We're all from the Treasure Coast. I mean, we all grew up like playing against each other in basketball, football. I tore my ACL halfway through my senior year of high school. So, that was a tough process to overcome. And so I was, speaking with Florida State from afar at the time. And then once I actually got on, and they basically said, if you come here academically, we got a spot for you on the football team. So come check in with us first day on campus. And so that's really how that process started. But then even then when I came on campus, because I had, after I tore my ACL, I'd gained some, I was about 215 in high school. Some of that weight turned into bad weight because I'm not running. And then so then that whole summer I lost a bunch of weight. So I came on the campus around maybe 190 pounds. And, there's no way I'm going to be able to play Division I linebacker at 190 pounds. So they were like, listen, we want to bring you out, see if we can work you at some different positions. And so they actually brought me out spring of my freshman year, so spring of 2011. And that was my first, interaction with the Florida State football team at that point.
Yeah. And then, one of the biggest games, not biggest games, but, I remember that Idaho game when you guys dropped 80 on them. And you got to get into the game. Like, what is that like? Because obviously you didn't play a whole lot being a walk-on, but you're going through the grind every single week in practice. You're doing everything that, Jameis is doing. But what's it like to actually get in the game like that late in the season? I think it was a week before we played Florida, just getting in that game and a blowout, seeing 80 points. Again, that's a lot of points for a football game. What was that like?
It was a dream come true. I've been asked that question a couple other times, and it's the only answer I can give it because, I didn't go into Florida State expecting to ever really get any play time. I always said, as long as I can put on this helmet and play ball, like I just love football and I love Florida State. I love being a part of the program. I used to have people ask me, oh, don't you wish you ended up, going to FAU or Jacksonville University where you would have got more play time? And I always said no, because I wouldn't have gotten to travel to these amazing places. Like, I wouldn't have been able, and obviously, you didn't know the national championship was going to happen when I, came to Florida State, but I ended up being in LA signing autographs like at Disneyland. Like, I mean, you can't do that at FAU. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to play with Heisman potential, quarterbacks. So for me, getting in a game was a dream come true. Because during the season, obviously, that year we were beating teams by exponentially more points than in the past. So all of us walk-ons were all like, a little excited, like, okay, we might get in. But I think what Florida State does great is they get their younger 5-star and younger 4-star players an opportunity in the second half to really play that whole second half and get valuable game time experience. So even when we were up by, 20, 30 points, it was something where we weren't like a shoo-in to get in. And I remember, talking with Coach Kelly those few weeks leading up to it, and he stayed on me, and I love Coach Kelly. I know that he, once he became defensive coordinator, the critics started chirping a lot more. But honestly, he was an amazing coach. And he was also our special teams coordinator at that time. So I think I kind of got lucky in the sense that the guy who was in charge of special teams got to see me day in and day out at practice as a linebacker. And then I know Coach Vic and the graduate assistants who are working more with us are able to kind of say, hey, no, he's doing what he needs to be doing in the weight room. He's doing what he needs to be doing by showing up at practice. And that's really it. If you're a walk-on, your skill set's not going to necessarily be what gets you on the field. It's going to be, okay, this man is coming to every 5 a.m. workout. This man is showing up on time. This man's doing the extra little things we need to do on the practice field and giving us good looks. So, you know what, let's reward him with an opportunity to get on the field. So, and that was great for me because I got to line up, next to Aguayo, next to Reggie Northrup, next to LaMarcus Brutus. And I mean, my family was in the stands, my friends were in the stands, and it was just like, it's almost one of those things though, when like he called my name to go out there, and then before you knew it, it was done, and it was like, wait, I didn't even get to enjoy what I did. You know what I mean? So going back and watching like the that play helps me relive it, because when you're out there, you're just like, okay, don't trip and fall when you're sprinting. You know what I mean? Like, don't be that guy that messes up the penalty. Like, don't try to be a hero. Just go down there and do what you need to do. But I made sure I hit the wedge and made some contact with these guys because I had to do it. I couldn't resist. But Aguayo did hit a touchback, so I was like, oh man, like at least give me an opportunity. I kind of felt like Mark Wahlberg when he's and he's
invincible, yeah,
and invincible, and he's running down the field. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt at that time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. I know you in. Just a random thought, Reggie Northrup, man. I saw a video of him in his latest MMA fight. Did you know he could throw hands like that?
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's a fun-loving guy, but yeah, he was someone you didn't want to mess with. I mean, he was, from the moment he stepped on campus, just chiseled. I mean, like, this guy was built just like out of this world. And I didn't know that he had necessarily that ability, but I'm not surprised by it at all. I mean, that guy, give him a sport, give him time to learn it, and he's going to excel at it.
Yeah. So going from there, so you played at Florida State, won a national title, you got your ring, went to law school. Now you're a criminal defense attorney and an NFL agent. We have the draft coming up here. You mentioned you have a couple clients in this draft that you're really excited about. Just talk about those guys a little bit.
Absolutely. So, and I think one little last tip on all that, playing with these guys is what helped me. I always wanted to be a sports agent. I mean, I love sports just like you guys do. But actually playing with these top, players in the country, seeing what they went through. I remember going to Jameis's pro day my first year at law school, and that was one of the coolest events I've ever been to. And seeing what these players liked about their agents, what these players didn't like about their agents, it just helped me better understand the players. And that's what made me be like, this is definitely what I want to do. So yeah, I went to Florida State Law School, and then to be an NFL agent, you actually have to have either a graduate degree or a law degree. And so for me, going to law school, it actually delayed the amount of time it would take for me to actually sit down and take the NFLPA agent exam. So what I tried to do was, keep my relationships not only with the Florida State program, but, with the NFL as strong as possible while in law school. So I actually began doing marketing, for a couple guys I used to play with, like Carlos Williams and Jacoby McDaniel. Carlos was with the Buffalo Bills at the time, and Jacoby was at the Cleveland Browns. So, that kind of gave me the opportunity to have my first opportunity to represent, NFL players, so that once I became an agent and I'm looking to actually sign a player and they say, okay, well, why should I hire you? Okay, I can talk about being an attorney. I can talk about being a football player, but now I can also say, well, I've worked with these couple NFL players and here's what I was able to do for them. So I'm very grateful and thankful for my former Florida State players to give me that opportunity. But yeah, for this year, this is my third draft class, and I've had players sign as priority free agents on the third day of the draft these last 2 years, and this year I'm looking to take that next step and get some players drafted. And the biggest names we have this year, well, actually I got 4 guys, and so Xavier Kelly, defensive tackle out of Arkansas. He originally was the #1 player in Kansas, one of the top players in the country, went to Clemson, won a few national championships there, and then transferred to Arkansas for his final season of collegiate football. I have TJ Simmons, wide receiver from West Virginia, who originally played at Alabama, and then they had like the biggest receiving class of all time that they brought in, multiple first-round picks. So he transferred to West Virginia and just finished off a great career there. I have Noah Curtis, defensive end out of FIU. And he's someone that, won a lot of awards down there and we're excited about. And then Deontay Ruffin, cornerback from Western Kentucky, who is just a freak athlete. So we got 4 guys, and, 2 of them have done their pro days already on March 10th and March 18th. We got 2 more coming up, the 29th and April 1st. And then, we'll see what happens come draft weekend. But, we definitely, a couple guys are popping up, 5th, 6th, 7th round on the mock drafts that you see online. So, yeah, I think all of them are going to get their shot in the NFL, whether it comes by way of a priority free agent or a late round draft pick. So, we're excited for this year's draft class.
No, that's super exciting. And we're not only cheering for them, but also cheering for you because that, like you said, takes the next step in your career too. I love your passion. You were gassing us up on the beginning, but I love your passion for everything because, again, you just remind me so much of myself. A lot of these guys that are playing sports aren't even the biggest sports fans, right? Like a lot of these 5-star athletes, they're just there because that's what they're good at. I'm not. I work in human resources. I'm not a big human resources fan. that's what I do,
Right.
But I love the passion that comes through. Not only when you were playing, you were sitting on the sideline of these big games. You just had a better seat, but you were doing the same thing I was doing, bro. You were just cheering your butt off like I was, man.
Well, and that, I remember we were in practice one time, or we were in the meeting rooms beforehand. And I remember Jimbo being like, all right, who in here knows Marcus Allen? And I'm like, I do. I'm a huge sports fan. But then you see some of the best running backs in the country not even know who the heck Marcus Allen is. But it's so true. And I've seen that now, representing athletes, when they get cut from a team, we might link up on a weekend to hang out. And I'm like, all right, you want to go watch some football? Whatever. Nah, I'm good. They don't want to watch football. They don't care what's going on because they're part of it. And they don't look at it because they're so involved with it. And I'll tell you what, as far as being an agent, that's the one thing that I will caution people is I don't watch enough other sports now. And I don't watch the teams I used to as much because now I'm so focused on my players that it does make you kind of, as a fan, switch your gears of who you're looking at, what you're watching.
What is your relationship now with FSU? Are you involved at all still around Tallahassee or still around Florida State? Are you able to kind of combine anything that you're doing right now, or what's that look like?
Definitely. So, it was nice when I was in law school. It was still pretty much the same staff from when I was playing there. So I was still around the program a lot. Then when Willie Taggart came in, I was actually living and working as a prosecutor down in Palm Beach. So unfortunately, I wasn't as involved with the program as I would have liked to be when Willie was here. And then I moved back here in November 2018. And so I was kind of got to see, Willie slide out, Mike Norvell come in with his new staff. And, fortunately, I've had the opportunity to build a relationship with, Coach Norvell and his staff. And what I've liked about it is they've been very inclusive. We get our former alumni player emails all the time. They want to bring us back for practices. They want to bring us back for games, for the victory walk on Friday nights. They want to bring us back, for the spring game on April 10th. So I've loved how they've included, former players of all calibers, whether a preferred walk-on, whether a Heisman quarterback. So I've loved that. But as far as getting back involved with the program, I've had several meetings up there with them. And, I have been able to do some, work as an attorney with the program as well. And, really my goal is to get an opportunity to speak to these players and try to connect with them and give them some basic understanding of, these small time crimes that college students in general, not just athletes, will run into on a weekly basis, whether it's, being in possession of alcohol by a minor, if it's potentially driving under the influence or being in the car with someone who's driving under the influence and what that entails and what that charge really is. And, what the penalty could be if you have drugs on you or, some of these horrible stories that I've seen both as a prosecutor and as a criminal defense attorney of, a female who, might be making false allegations against you. And obviously I was on the team with Jameis when, all of that drama was going on. So I have kind of some firsthand experience, both as a player and then as an attorney of these nightmares that collegiate athletes can run into. So my goal is to really, be able to continue to grow my relationship with the program and have that opportunity to speak to them because, not knocking any speakers that have come through there, but I know when I was 20, 21 years old, if you have some guy that's coming in there that's 40 to 50 years old, I was the same way. I can't even fault him. I'd be like, man, I don't want to listen to you. Why should I listen to you? How am I going to connect with you? Things of that nature. So I feel like when I come back in there as a 28-year-old and say, hey, just 6-7 years ago, I was practicing getting ready for a national championship game. now these past 6-7 years, I've been focusing my life as an attorney. And let me tell you how you can help better yourself both on and off the field as a collegiate athlete. So that's really what I would love to do. I mean, I think that's a big reason why I'm an agent. I'm trying to give back to the players and help them and their families, reach the pinnacle of their careers, because I was fortunate enough to reach the pinnacle of mine at Florida State. And so I want to help other people reach theirs.
Yeah, and I think that's so big and something that we're really proud of you for, and something that we appreciate, because Richie and I are a little older, not like super old. I mean, we're like 31, 30. Well, Richie's like, Richie, how old are you? 33 and like a 62-year-old's body or something like that.
Yeah, I go to bed at 9:00 every night. Like I'm pissed that Florida State plays at 7:45 on Monday.
Dude,
night.
I'm so excited. So like Paul, I got 2 little kids. I know you know this, but I got 2 little kids and they go down around 7. So like we play at 7:45. That gives me like 30 minutes to like, all right, chill out, eat some dinner, get a nice comfy spot on the couch, clean up a little bit. I'm like, 7:45, yes. Richie's like, man, I was hoping that thing would tip off at like 5 o'clock. And I'm like, Richie, why are you like 800 years old, bro? Like, so anyway, but no, we're super proud of that. And I think it's all education, right? Like, because guys, the world is just so different now.
Yeah.
With the thing that made the Jameis situation so crazy was stuff like that had happened before, but the social media aspect of that and everything else in the world, social media was like at its absolute, it's at its peak now, but like was at a different place in 2013, 2014 than it had ever been. We didn't have this constant news cycle, news feed. Like every step that Jameis took on campus was like documented, because that was the first time that Florida State had like a star like that since like the early 2000s. And it just wasn't the same with social media coming in and stuff now. And so like guys didn't really know, man, like every step you take is being like, literally like filmed and recorded and stuff now. Like, and it's obviously even more magnified now, but like guys understand that now, right? Like so it's about educating the kids and stuff. And that's so big. I mean, we've got a great relationship with the FSU boosters, and we encourage people every week to go and contribute there, because that's what it all kind of comes back to. You being an agent, you helping out with the current program now, us trying to tie in the boosters to a lot of stuff that we do. I mean, it all goes back to the athletes, and it all goes back to helping the kids and supporting the program that we love. And we get on here for an hour and a half in a week and like rave about and obsess about, but it all goes back to the kids and helping them out. And we've had different coaches on to talk about that impact and talk about what that is. But the fact that we can, and you can educate them and help them in that aspect just really goes to show, how much it means to you to continue to give back. So we're proud of that. And we appreciate that you do that as well.
Thank you. And it's, after playing for, 4 years in undergrad and going to, 2.5 years of law school up here. I mean, they always talk about how Odell Higgins, bleeds that garnet and gold. And it's, I'm nowhere close to being, involved with the program for as long as he will. Probably will never reach that status. But I mean, just having been in this town for so long and having so many ties to it, I mean, it's kind of the natural thing. It's so easy for me to want to give back because they were so good to me, and I wouldn't be where I am without Florida State and without Florida State football. So it's an easy transition. And, that's the one thing with me being an agent, there's certain restrictions of what I can and can't do. And that's what I've always told the program is like, listen, I know I'm an agent, and if it means, not going after current Florida State guys for me to come in here and speak to the program, I'm fine with that. I represent some former Florida State guys that I play with, like Carlos Williams and Matthew Thomas, who are in the CFL now. But I really just want to give back to the program and help these guys out with my lawyer hat on. Like and my former player hat on. Like I can leave the agent stuff at the door and come in there and just try to help these kids from, a real like human to human perspective.
Tell us about your thoughts on the direction of FSU's program. You talked about like being invited back and getting to develop a relationship with the coaches and things. Norvell on staff now. Been a tumultuous couple of years. The pandemic didn't help that. I've talked about this with everybody that's been on. I'm not making excuses for Coach Norvell, but no other coach took over a program of this level
Exactly.
that had fallen this far during a pandemic. And so like, you still got to win. Like you don't just get a path like that forever, but like nobody's taking over something like this in the midst of a pandemic. But recruiting's going well right now. There's a lot of excitement. There's some good things happening. Obviously, that has to translate on the field. But, like, what are your thoughts on the direction of the program, Coach Norvell, FSU football in general, as somebody who's been around and played for them and very familiar with the program?
So, and thank you for asking. And, I personally think that we are headed in the right direction. Like I said, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to meet, Coach Norvell a couple of times, some of the other staff, and I just love the positive energy and accountability that this staff has. It really is reminiscent, to Jimbo's staff and how, they're excited about playing football, but, we mean business here. And if you're not going to be, acting right and doing the right things, then we don't want you a part of the program. And, as hard nosed and maybe old school that mindset might be, I think it's what's important, not only to have a winning program, but especially when you're rebuilding a program. Any player, I think, or even a coach, can be a cancer to a team very quickly, because, if they have a lackadaisical attitude or they're showing up late or they're not doing the right things in and out of the classroom, that stuff can rub off on younger players very quickly, and it can create a toxic environment very fast. So what I like about them is that this staff they're young, they're hungry, they have proven success at different schools. But I think now a lot of these coaches here are having an opportunity to really take their next step and increase their legacy as a coach. And, whether they use this as a stepping stone to go be, if you're an assistant coach and you use this as a stepping stone to go be a head coach elsewhere, that's great. Give us everything you got here and, help us win the championship, and you're going to have those opportunities elsewhere. So I like where the program's at. And overall, what I've seen these last couple of years that I really like is that, there's been some, negative media reports that come out, but, Coach Norvell gets right in front of it. I mean, he doesn't try to hide from it. He, gets right in front of it. He gets on TV. He makes his statements, and I love that. And he supports his players, and that's something that I love too, because Jimbo had our backs. I mean, he fought for us. He fought for everybody on the team, and that's what I see with Coach Norvell as well. And just from being someone who still, is in tune with players and what's going on at practice, just from the environment that I heard of where the practices were at under the previous regime and where practices are at now is night and day. And it seems like practices are much more in line with how they were when Jimbo was here. And that's the type of culture you need to have a winning program.
Yeah, we'll let you out of here in a minute, but I have to ask you, let's go get away from Doak Campbell. Let's go to the Tucker Center, man. You've been following this basketball team, and this season, seeing Coach Hamilton. When you were there in 2013, they were kind of on the downswing. 14, 15, 16. There were questions of even if Hamilton should be able to keep his job. Right. Now he's got us as one of the top 15 programs in the country probably, and it's been a blast to watch. Did you interact with any basketball players or Coach Ham while you were there? And what are your thoughts on the team as we just took down UNC Greensboro and get ready for Colorado tomorrow night?
Absolutely. So for me, having, even though I wasn't necessarily playing on Saturdays, being a player on the football team, going to basketball games was, I feel like, what everyone else was able to do when going to football games. That was my time to go marvel at other athletes. That was my time to kind of be a student, you know what I mean? And really sit in the student section and, have a drink, have some nachos, enjoy the game. So for me, college basketball, and especially at the Tucker Center with Florida State, was huge in undergrad because that's when I got to feel like a student. And, I agree. I always thought they were pretty hard on Coach Ham with that. I mean, we were always, making some pushes. I think I want to say, we made a great push with Michael Snare, to the Sweet 16. And, we were making some good pushes back then. And then, they got really hard on him when I was in law school. And I remember one of the big things was us trying to get Andrew Wiggins to come to Florida State. And I was excited about that, being the sports fan, like I told you guys I am, having Jameis Winston on the football team, having Andrew Wiggins on the basketball team would have been great. But, fast forward to now, I mean, Leonard Hamilton is getting those Andrew Wiggins type players and more on a regular basis. And it's awesome to see because, he's just such a figurehead of a program. How he walks, how he talks, how he dresses, how he carries himself. I mean, that's who you want as, the patriarch of a program. And so, he's a father figure to these kids. And, he has so much energy. It's unbelievable. I mean, the guy doesn't look like a day over the age of 50. And it's just like it's almost like he's getting younger every year. So I'm excited about it. Scotty Barnes is just, a freak. And, those are the types of things that I marvel at because, even though I saw freak athletes like Kelvin Benjamin on the field in football, it's like, okay, Scotty Barnes is, bigger than Kelvin was, longer than he is, and he's jumping higher and he's moving faster. So that's where it's like, it gets put into perspective real quick to me how freakish of athletes these guys are. And I mean, we have a hell of a team here. I mean, MJ, I think, is going to have a fantastic tournament. And I'm just excited to be able to cheer on, a Florida State team deep into the tournament, I'm hoping.
They've been super fun to watch really for the last several years. And a lot of the FSU, football's hitting a rough spot, but a lot of the programs we talked about coming on here, baseball looking to sweep Miami, just beat Florida on Tuesday. Softball's incredible. Beach volleyball is like number 1 in the country. Women's basketball plays tonight. So a lot of great stuff going on. Paul, we appreciate you so much for coming on and hanging out with us tonight. Hopefully we didn't take up too much of your time, but the interview we were riding high, man. It was a lot of fun stuff to chat about, but thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're definitely going to get you on again at some point in the near future. But, man, we appreciate all you've done for FSU and for us in general and the kids now. But, man, good luck to your guys in the draft. And hopefully we'll all celebrate with gut boxes up there in Tallahassee soon when things get back to a little bit more normal.
No, thank you guys for having me on. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I tune in all the time to listen to all the great guys you get on here. And I love more of the raw and cut, approach you guys take to these. And you never know sometimes where Freddie might go with something. And, shout out to Freddie. I love him, man. Playing with him was great. And I think you guys have a special, thing going on with this podcast. So I'm happy to be on it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, bud. You have a good one, man. Go Noles.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
See you, buddy. Paul Aloisi Jr., NFL agent, criminal defense attorney, and most importantly, 2013 national champion. Man, he was great, Richie. I really appreciated his time, his interview, getting to learn about kind of what it was like from a little bit different perspective when he was playing, and then what he's doing now is pretty incredible. And then, man, everybody we talk to thinks Norvell's got this ship heading in the right direction. So not just local FSU homers, like when we talk to Salee and Andy Staples and those national guys too, they say the same thing. So I'm excited for it. But speaking of excited, we've got an exciting game coming up tomorrow. We're going to jump into Richie's basketball minute here in just a second. But Richie, what do you think about that interview?
Yeah, man, he was great. And it's awesome to hear the perspective. We've had, all pros like Antonio Cromartie on here, but to hear the perspective of a walk-on, what that's like. And then, who went to law school now is an NFL agent, just a lot of great perspective. I thought Paul was great. We definitely need to get him back on here. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I want to get him on, once his guys all get signed and drafted and everything else like that to kind of chat about it. The draft is, we're in the middle of March Madness, so I'm going to try and not go too far off into the draft just yet. But, man, the draft is one of the most fun weeks because it doesn't matter if your team, like us, won the Super Bowl or finished last. Who finished last this year? Oh, the Jags. But there's so much excitement,
Now they get Trevor Lawrence, so yeah.
Right, yeah. So, whether you were the best or the worst, you're either still riding high off the Super Bowl or you've got the next coming of whoever, at quarterback going to take over for you. So, the draft is fantastic, and all the best of luck to Paul and his team and his guys as he continues to take the next step in his career. I loved hearing the involvement that he's trying to have or has with the current program at FSU, and just giving back to the players and trying to help out and do what's best for them, trying to give them insight on what's going on. So a great interview. I'm excited to listen back to that tomorrow morning when it drops. So we appreciate you guys hanging out. We're going to get to Richie's basketball minute in just a minute. If you're watching this, if you could retweet, share, comment, post, all that stuff. Follow us on social media, Double Fries No Slaw. It's Double Fries Pod on Twitter. And if you're listening to this, if you're on iTunes, thousands of people listen on iTunes every week. If you could give us a 5-star review, we'd appreciate that as well. We've got way less 5 stars than people that are listening and tuning in. Our numbers have been way up this last month too. So appreciate everybody kind of tuning in and checking us out. So, all right, without further ado, my favorite thing we've ever done on this podcast, without a doubt. I mean, these are the most fun. And we're going to have one more at least, but hopefully we get more of these than less. Richie Barnes' basketball minute, everybody.
1 year after being denied a run at the Final Four thanks to a global pandemic, Florida State took to the hardwood in Indianapolis for some March Madness in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. The only thing standing between the Noles and the round of 32 would be a scrappy Spartan team from Greensboro, North Carolina. The Tribe would get off to a hot start, taking an early 13-2 lead, topped off by a pair of Sadar sharp-shooting Calhoun free throws. While it looked like the good guys would coast to an easy W, the Spartans had other ideas in the first 20 minutes, making this game closer than any of us would have liked. Isaiah Thomas Miller found his group early, helping UNCG close the gap, keeping this one well within distance of a potential first-round upset, of which we saw many over the weekend. Greensboro came out with force to start the second half, thanks to an early Keyshawn Johnson-Langley 3-ball, knotting the game at 29. From there, the Tribe would go on a 12-0 run, seemingly putting this one out of reach, but an Isaiah Reggie Miller jumper with 5:38 to play would make this a one-point game at 49-48 late. Luckily for the good guys, Old Faithful, a.k.a. Raekwon 50 Shades of Grey, delivered when his team needed him the most with back-to-back buckets, slamming the door on this one. But for those in Vegas, it was an Anthony Polite dunk with 2 ticks on the clock to cover the spread. Leading bettors ever are yelling, "This is Sparta!" Noles win 64-54 and will take on Colorado Monday night at 7:45 p.m. as the Tribe survives and advances.
Survive and advance. That's the name of the game. Another excellent basketball minute. We haven't commented on what. Let me not get canceled. Let me not say it like that. But like what either one of us are wearing. But we're both. I like your shoulders. Your shoulders look great here, Richie. I've got my. What is this? This turquoise.
N7? Yeah,
the N7 shirt on. This was a giveaway several years ago. We were talking off air. I can't remember who got this for me. So whoever it was, that shout out to you. It was okay. It was either Matt Thompson or Austin Veazey. So it was one. So thank you, whoever it was. But yeah, I got this giveaway several years ago and had to bust it out after I win yesterday. But survive and advance, right? Not the prettiest at times. Sometimes the game was the absolute prettiest. Sometimes we looked really, really good. When they came out and tied it up in the second half and made it 29-all, I was like, oh, gosh. Like, we had finished the first half poorly. And then Florida State goes on a 12-0 run. Makes it look like it was nothing. Got close again with like 5 minutes to go, but Raekwon kind of did his thing and extended the lead enough to where it wasn't super in doubt at the end. But we did let kind of a bad team hang around and made it closer than I would have liked. We found a way to win and move on. So, good stuff from the Noles there. Thoughts on the game yesterday outside of your basketball minute?
Yeah, man, it started off as good as could be. You know, after the second media timeout, Greensboro only had 4 points. The defense was good, and we knew they were not a good shooting team heading into the game. But yeah, it's a little disappointing that you let them hang around. But at the same time, look all over the country. You know, Ohio State, Texas, the 2 seed and 3 seed, they're done. Their tournament's over. Florida State moves on. We're a 1-point favorite to open up against Colorado for tomorrow night. So really excited about that. But yeah, like I mentioned, Raekwon Gray, he's been our best player all year. You know, Scotty's the best NBA prospect by far. MJ is probably the best college player when he's playing at his peak, but Raekwon Gray is just so consistent, played outstanding. You know, I think he had 17 points yesterday. What's wild to me, Florida State, we were the best 3-point shooting team in the ACC, 10th best in the country heading into this game, 0 for 9. If you had told me we were not going to make a single 3-pointer, I would think, man, that our season might have been over at that, but they found a way, you know, held them to 54 points, which is really good. You know, just 64 offensively, which is, I thought we'd score in the mid 80s. But again, March Madness, it's all about survive and advance, and that's what we do. And we're playing for a shot at the Sweet 16 to potentially play Michigan in the next weekend. So overall, you can't be mad. Again, it was sloppy at times, looked good at times, but at the same time, again, Ohio State, Texas, others are done, and we still play. So I'm happy with any win.
Yeah, I mean, we'll load up all the cliches today, but I'd rather win ugly than lose pretty if that's possible. I'll tell you who wishes they were still playing, and that's Virginia, and that's Duke, and that's North Carolina, and that's all those other ACC teams minus Syracuse. So, which, man, that 2-3 zone is so built for March.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Buddy Boeheim, shout out Buddy Boeheim, man. That guy is playing out of his mind in March.
I'm thankful that we won. Like I said, it's about moving on. It's about finding a way to win. And yesterday, Florida State found a way to win. They also shot 0 for 9 from 3, which I don't know how often that's going to happen. Became the first team since 2018's Kentucky to play an entire game without hitting a 3, which is kind of crazy, right? Like every game. So you think there's 63 games plus the 4 to start. So 67 games a year. So 67 games in 2019 and a bunch this year. All teams hit 3 minus us yesterday. We were the first one since, again, 3 years back that hadn't done it. So you got to think Florida State shoots a little better from distance. Turnovers were high-ish, but down from what they were in the ACC tournament. So 15 turnovers. You can clean that up and give yourself like 3 or 4 more possessions, get that down to 11-12. Florida State's going to turn the ball over without a true point guard. I mean, that's just going to happen. But if you get the turnovers down to 11-12 a game and get your 3-point shooting up to, even 20%, right? Then you win that game going
on the year. Yeah, we shot 40% on the year. And I just have to say, I don't like calling out players, but number 0 does not need to be starting anymore. Start Scotty. Use Raekwon Evans off the bench. I think he's a great player as a role player, support guy coming off the bench. He does not need to be starting. Start Scotty. And I know Hamilton is very firm in his beliefs, so it's probably not going to happen, but man, that's tough watching him start every game. And, but that's okay. We just got to keep moving on. In Colorado, again, I was a little surprised. I thought we'd be favored by more than 1 point tomorrow night. So it's basically a pick 'em. They're going to be playing in a different venue than they did yesterday. No team will be playing the same venue for their first 2 games. They wanted to switch that up. So, hopefully wherever we're playing tomorrow night, we can hit some shots from deep.
Yeah, if that improves. Colorado looked great against Georgetown. Georgetown at one point was
bad.
8. Yeah, Georgetown at one point was 8-9. It was a cute story with Patrick Ewing and all that stuff. Yeah. Like, I get it, but Georgetown's not a great team. I think Florida State started out really well, but kind of got lulled to sleep a couple of times. We've always talked about this. We tend to play down. I don't think there will be a playing down against Colorado. They're a good team. Florida State should win, but this is March, and crazy things happen. It's been a crazy tournament so far. I think there's like 3 perfect brackets left, which even to be perfect after this first round is pretty nuts, with with a 2 seed getting upset in Ohio State, Virginia dropping last night, 3 seed lost as well. Didn't a 14 win? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
Texas lost to Abilene Christian last night.
That's right. So, pretty insane. So every seed has won except for a 16 this year, which again, obviously has only happened once to Virginia. But excited for the game tomorrow night. I don't care how old you are. I'm excited for the time of the tip.
I'll stay up for it. I'll make sure of this. This is, again, it's March. There's no sleeping. I'll sleep in May. All right.
I just got a text. Listener wants to know if you have a permit for those guns or not. While we're watching this,
I haven't touched the weight room since high school when I was forced to lift weights. I do not do that.
So we talked about this. The women's team plays tonight, 7:30 on ESPN2. Again, I know that you will. I know that you'll be watching, the men's games that are on and stuff like that. Florida plays Oral Roberts at that time too, so I know you'll be wanting to watch and cheer for Oral Roberts, everybody. But give our women's team a peek on ESPN2 tonight and check them out. Going around the horn really, really quick in FSU sports, and then we'll go to some spring football, and then we'll get out of here. But Florida State baseball, we mentioned this, beat Florida State baseball beat Florida on Tuesday night, a 10-2 drubbing, which that was fantastic. And then they have won the first 2 games against Miami today. They play the third game looking for the sweep down in Coral Gables at 1 p.m. Softball won 2 games yesterday, and they're up on Kennesaw State right now. They play Auburn later today, looking to go 4-0 over the weekend. The coaching staff had to pull together. They had a series canceled. The coaching staff had to pull together and find some games for the girls to play this weekend, and they did. And we're halfway to going 4-0 in those games. Florida State softball continues to roll. Beach volleyball, again, number 1 team in the country there, and they continue to just dominate folks as well. So some fun stuff as well. They went 2-0 yesterday also. But we'll finish. We save the best for last. We'll finish with football. Richie, what's going on out on the gridiron in spring football this week?
Yeah, so they're back in pads. They had their first scrimmage yesterday, so I'm looking forward to see the reports and hear what the coaches and players have to say. But they're really getting into the meat of it right now. I know you'll be up there in a few weeks for the spring game, so that'll be the first time everything's on display. I think they had the stadium open, so people were actually in there watching. I know I saw Logan over at Noles Game Day. He was in the stadium watching the scrimmage. But yeah, they're right in the middle of it right now. So the big thing is Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis. It sounds like it's could be a legitimate battle. I think most people, including myself, assumed when we signed Milton that the job was his. But Jordan Travis is really playing some good ball. He's someone I keep an eye on because even if Milton wins the job, Jordan Travis is too good of an athlete, too dynamic with the ball in his hands to not be on the field. So I think Mike Norvell's got himself a pretty good problem right there.
Yeah, you'd rather have it's better that than the opposite problem we've struggled with, not knowing who the quarterback would be just due to a lack of talent. But I'd rather have too much than not enough. Yeah, I mean, you've seen teams implement that, though. Like Florida did a pretty good job with it last year with spotting Emory Jones here and there when Trask was playing. Like, if you've got 2 different skill sets and you can kind of catch teams off guard, give them something extra to prepare for, I mean, certainly not an issue there. So excited for that. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, we've seen it right in our, going to the NFL, but in our own division, Taysom Hill with the Saints, Drew Brees is the guy, but Taysom Hill is too dynamic to keep off the field. Talk about quarterback battles. That'll be a fun one to watch because I think it's Jameis's job to lose, but we'll see what happens there.
That's not a battle. They're not. Ain't no tight end beating out the GOAT. Like, relax.
So when I saw he signed like $120 million contract, and then I'm like, oh, every year's voidable, and like 12 of it's guaranteed. So that was all for looks.
Yeah, I think the way they use Hill is sometimes interesting. I think he does special things. He does kind of like some fun things. I know that we're not here to break down the Saints, but I think that Breeze having like kind of a noodle arm now last year really impacted a lot of that. Like he couldn't get the ball down the field like on a 3rd and long. And so you almost had to bring Hill in to like kind of like do something tricky. Whereas I'm sure they'll use Hill if when Jameis wins out that spot, but I don't think it'll be to the same level. I think they had to get gimmicky with where Breeze was at from Breeze is obviously one of the greatest of all time, so that's not a disrespect to him, but like he just didn't have it, this year, especially late in the year, coming off the injury. It was obviously good for the Bucs, but it kind of stunk to watch him go out the way he did at the end of the year. Because you can just tell he didn't have it.
Yeah, but bringing it back to Tallahassee real quick, it did sound like the Mike Norvell's really happy with his tight ends right now. Cam McDonald, Jackson West, a lot of praise for them. So receiving is we got to find some receivers right now, and I think our 2 best receivers on the team probably aren't on campus yet. Andrew Parchment from the transfer from Kansas, and then Destin Hill. Or Payson, he changes his name all the time. I don't know, but those 2 guys I think are outstanding. But a young group, it's the offensive line sounds like it's slowly coming together, and we knew that was a multi-year rebuild, so we're still in the process of that. But Darius Washington sounds like he's dropped some bad weight and put on some good weight, and he looks really good. The transfers, we mentioned Jermaine Johnson. I think he's going to be a a nightmare for a lot of the quarterbacks that we played this year. So yeah, but as spring gets finished, we'll probably bring somebody on, do a full recap of spring after the spring game to see where Florida State's at. But I think the progress is there right now, and they're making solid strides.
Yeah, I'm excited to get up there for the spring game. Richie knows like 4,000 people that are still getting married, and so Richie's skipping out on it. But I'm excited to get up there for the spring game and see the progress of the team. I'm just glad that my team is having a spring game. Not to call any shots, but Florida, you're soft. So anyway, all right, Richie, that's all I've got for this week. I appreciate you hanging out. We're just at an hour now, so hey, 40 minutes until some hoops tips off. I'm excited to see these games today. We've got the Fighting Loyola Chicago, Sister Jan. Or what's the lady's name? Sister
Jean, yeah.
Jean. Jan. I'm way off here. Excited to see if Loyola Chicago can get this upset of a 1-seed Illinois. They're only a 6.5-point favorite, though. So some good games today. I'm excited to kind of see what's going on. 2 1-seeds back-to-back to start the day. And then, like I said, big Oral Roberts fan later tonight at 7:45.
Well, real quick, the Illinois kind of got screwed, man. Loyola is number 10 in the Ken Palm, and they were a 9 seed. Like that was when I heard Moses Wright was out for Georgia Tech, that was easy for me. I knew Loyola was going to win that game. They might win this game too. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make a second, Cinderella run for the past 3 years.
A lot of low seeds playing today. A 12 in Oregon State, a 13 in North Texas. Like I said, 15 Oral Roberts. 10 Rutgers won, and then 11 Syracuse is still in it as well. So shout out to the low seeds. Hopefully they can keep it going and kind of keep their Cinderella dance alive. But excited for FSU women tonight. Excited for the men to play tomorrow night. Maybe we will see how things go and how tired Richie is. If we win tomorrow, maybe we'll do a Sweet 16 reaction show. But no problem.
I can do that. If we win tomorrow, I can commit to that. So
all right. All right, cool. Well, we will see you guys next week. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we will certainly appreciate it. And we will be back next week. I don't know what the song is about to be, but I'll pick something, and those listening on iTunes can enjoy that. So we'll see you guys next week. Go Noles.